Welcome back, guys. Last week we left off with doing our full disassembly, getting our parts all separated and ready for paint. If you guys haven't seen that episode or the prior episodes, be sure to check those out and hit the subscribe button so you can see future content. So, when I'm working with foam, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with the heat gun. That's going to seal up any little pores and holes in the foam, getting it ready for paint so it's not going to absorb nearly as much. Nice thing about the Fatman is there isn't a lot of color. The only color we really have is on this pressure tank. As you can see, I masked it off. I didn't cover everything. If a little bit of overspray gets on everything else, I'm not too concerned here. It is everything else is going to get painted. I just masked it off to give myself a little bit of help. So for this yellow area, I'm just going to hit this with some white primer. Just to let me get coverage with my yellow a little bit easier. That should give me a nice base to work from. If you're ever painting in a garage like this, be sure to wear a respirator. I'll be throwing mine on as soon as I'm done talking to you guys. I do have the garage open though. Alright, we're going to let that dry now. Come back to it in a little bit, slap the yellow on. We're into our color now. And as I spray my color here, I'm going to show you guys how I do my rusting effect. I've done it on a Pyramid Head costume as well as my Fallout armor. So we're going to go ahead and as I go, I've got all this metal dust that I picked up from the welding we were doing and the cutting we were doing on the frame. So I'm going to spray my color, sprinkle this on where I think it would potentially rust. So I really like getting like along edges and stuff like that. Like that's where water's going to collect, where it's going to rust. That dry. I'm going to do the same thing with the black paint. I'll just give you guys a time lapse as I've already explained what I'm doing. So we have all our base coat down now. Lots of that metal shavings and whatever dirt was on my floor when I was picking up the metal shavings mixed nicely into the paint there. It doesn't really hurt to have that extra texture. There's some sawdust in there. I'm sure there's some foam, other little bits of nonsense. Whatever was on my garage floor is now in that paint. So I just want to show you guys a little quick tip. So if you ever have nuts and bolts you need to paint, or more so on the bolts and washer side anyway, just tossing them into a piece of cardboard, just push them through. Makes your life a lot easier. They're not going to be rolling around on you, bouncing around, flying everywhere. And there you have it. So we'll let this stuff dry. We'll come back here shortly and we will spray this stuff down. We're going to go ahead right now and start spraying things down. I'll just do those fresh parts last. The nice thing about this matte paint is it dries really quick. As you can see, nothing's really coming off there at all. So, and if a little bit comes off, again, it's a Fallout Fatman. I want it to look rough. I want it to look nasty. I want it to look gritty. That's sort of the goal we have. So, making things rust and rust quickly. So I'm hoping this will work because I want to have this done. It's Friday night right now. I want to have this thing ready to go on Sunday, ideally. So this is my wonderful little concoction I use. So mostly water, hydrogen peroxide, some white vinegar, and some salt. I more or less looked up the things online that'll oxidize steel the fastest, and made a lovely little mixture. So, couple things to keep in mind here. Don't do this near anything with steel. Well, you don't want to be getting this on anything steel. You don't want to be getting it on your toolboxes, on your motorcycles, whatever else you have kicking around in the garage. So I'm going to leave the cardboard down, do it on the cardboard. Get rid of the mini nuke. That's not ready for paint yet. Yeah, so more or less just have some fun. Get your parts nice and soaked. I like to do this with the parts sitting roughly vertical, or in their orientation that they will be when you're done. That way you're going to get the rust dripping off. It's going to leave stains, which is wonderful and awesome. And you kind of want it, you kind of want it, if you can, to mimic the look of actual rust, which is why you're probably not noticing in my time lapses. They go a little quick. I'll try to fix that in my next videos, guys. But I was trying to really put my metal shavings around little details and stuff like this, around my little clamps on the tubing here, because that's where I want the rust. That's where you would think rust would form, just because, you know, gravity, where water gets trapped, so on and so forth. Yeah. Not a ton of rhyme or reason to this, just want to get everything with a nice light spray. It doesn't have to be super heavy. It's pretty cool if you do this on a clean surface. You can actually see it just start dripping off orange. All right, and we're gonna hit that copper there. Hoping we get some nice, cool looking greens with the copper, because again, this stuff just oxidizes. Might run into some issues on the aluminum rails there. Oh, we'll see. Might turn out cool too. Don't really know until it happens, till you try it, right? Alright, well, we're 3 minutes in this video. I'm going to cut off now. Before I talk you to death, we'll just throw a time lapse on as I finish up here. Next morning here, guys, and would you look at that? Look at our rust already popping up, and that's just about 6 hours of drying time in between. So I'm gonna give everything another real quick squirt here, and we'll leave it from there. It was another long day for me, guys, at the Edmonton Comic Expo, but we're back now. I am thrilled with how this is looking. As you can see, it still looks very fresh. And I'm not talking just about the rust, but the paint as well. Like, it looks like we have solid black paint and rust, solid black paint, rust. Which we don't really want. We want this whole thing to look weathered. So what I'm going to do to start here, I'm going to take a wire brush and just sort of brush everything. It's going to knock off that really, really fresh rust. keep in mind the iron filings are going to continue to rust in the future, and that's something I want. So right now I'm just going to knock everything down with a brush, and then I'm going to give this a little help on the weathering. I'm going to hit it with some browns and some light tan spray paint, just to sort of make everything look a little dirtier. So we got the gauge more or less finished up here. I just cut the needle out of piece of 2mm craft foam. Just stuck it in using a 1-inch panel nail. So I completely forgot about this little guy on the side here. I'm not the best with computers, at least as far as like editing stuff goes, so I can like print things off and just slap them on. So I just freehanded it, and I just looked at a few reference photos online for what I could find real quick for what was actually on the Fatman. Painted this up, and then promptly threw some spray paint over it to make it not too vibrant and make it sort of blend in a little better. As you can see, we've got our dust coating of that tan color. I'm not going to do the gray. I think it's a little overkill and not really what I'm going for looks wise. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. I still need to do a little bit of black washing on the silver and gray bits, a little bit on the copper as well. And then we're ready to throw this guy back together. Thanks again for joining me this week, guys. If you guys like what I do, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you get regular updates on what I do. Join me again next week. We're just going to be working on the firing mechanism a little bit more, finishing up with the assembly, and we'll do some shooting.